talk about how to do a study system log. So the logs are designed to help you keep track of your learning and to make it a routine. The key here is you want to make a routine for yourself. It's kind of like a job. You have this many opportunities in a day to study material, and you're trying to do it so that you don't skip classes, you don't skip the studying portion and just do homework only or just study before a test, which is totally ineffective. So first off, the different codes. So these are the different codes you'll be using: preview, concept, map. So this will be what you do prior to a lecture. You title it P. Study maps, notes. So if you're studying your maps or if you're in a different class that doesn't use maps, you're not using maps in your other classes. Then S, homework, practice. So anything they assign that's just designed to give you some practice with the content and application, you put H. Teaching the material, which we know is a heavy hitter. Whether you do it in your study groups, whether you do it to the wall, to your parents, whoever, you put T. Assess learning, you put A. And then the different subjects, you have math, English, science, history, and elective. In order for this to really work, you have to use it across the board. It can't just be in one class, because if you're doing one class, then you're not really creating a routine. You're just doing it for that class, and that's useless. So let's try out with the goal. So let's say my goal for this is preview, and you could do shorthand. So preview lecture 1. You don't have to use complete sentences. I'm going to leave the time blank because I don't know how much time it's going to take me until after I finish the session. So then I do the activity code. So I'm going to do, let's say for preview. And in order to do this properly, you should have 2 circles for any one session. The reason is, after you preview it, how do you know you actually understood what you previewed? The act of just making a concept map is not studying. It's just developing the foundation, and you need to build on top of that. So after you preview, you have a couple of different options. You could do studying, so study your maps, or teaching. For our purposes, T&A is really the heavy hitters. The more T&As you do, the more in tune you're going to be with the concepts, and the better you're going to be in the class. So if I'm doing P, I want to do T, because I probably don't have an assessment yet. So I'm going to do those 2 combined. So I'm going to preview the material, make a concept map, and then I'm going to make sure I understand it by trying to teach it to somebody. I teach it to the wall, teach it to a doll, really doesn't matter. So you do that. So you do that for a total of how long? It varies. I mean, some topics are longer than others. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, this whole process took us 40 minutes. So we put 40 minutes. And let's say this was for science class. So then after I'm done with that session, I go take my 15-minute break, recharge myself. And you have to do that without fail. Even if you feel compelled to continue, make it a habit to take a break. It's like you're doing a job. You do, 30, 40, or 50 minutes of the job, and then you take a 15-minute breather doing something you like. That helps you avoid having to lock into your phone the whole time, right? Because if you know you have 15 minutes at the end to catch up on emails or messages or whatever, then that makes it a little bit easier. So you're going to do it that way. After you come back on from your 15-minute break, spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, reviewing one more time, just to make sure it's locked in. So you could do another brief little reteaching method. You could preview one more time or study it, whatever, but do something else for it. So that's your session 1. Session 2, same thing. Let's say assume it's your English class or let's say Spanish class. Let's say study flashcards. That's going to be your goal. So session time, once again, we'll leave blank. We're just going to be for Spanish. That's your elective. So activity code. Well, you definitely need to study the flashcards, right? But how do you know you really learned them? Well, one way in this situation is to assess yourself. And, you could do an online test, you could do a quizzes test, you could do a Quizlet. You have a whole bunch of different options. And some of you guys think they're the same thing. They're not. Studying means you're trying to first make sure you understand them, and then you test yourself. You should not be doing flashcards where you're trying to test yourself the whole time, because your brain has not many connections to the ideas. So you're just kind of doing nothing at that point, because you're looking at the word, oh, okay, this is this. Please study it first and then assess yourself. And then once again, 15-minute break, come back to it, last 5 minutes to a quick little review, and then go on to your next topic. So that 5-minute review at the end is very important. So make sure you make that a habit. Okay, let's say now we have math class. So we're going to do our homework, finish homework. So our thing's going to be math subject. So homework, right? Here's my suggestion to you. The more times you do this, the better off you are. So if you do the homework and you have to use your notes initially because you have no idea what's going on, that's fine. Use it in the beginning. But at some point, you need to switch that from homework to assessment. So let's say you do the first 5 questions as your homework, meaning that you look back at your notes, make sure you understand what you're doing, look at examples, whatever you need to do. Once you think you're comfortable, and even if you're not, you should still give yourself whatever half of the work is, that homework is, make half of it the homework, make half of it a test, because this part will help you to determine if you really understand the material. This is the easiest way to create assessments at home. Turn homework into assessments. And all you gotta do is real simple. Give yourself a time limit. So say we have a total of 15 minutes for our session, right? Let's say we spend the first 20 doing it as homework, looking back at our notes, basically cheating, right? Because you don't know what you don't know yet, because you're using a reference tool and that's useless. And then let's say for the last 30 minutes, we put on a timer and we make it a test. That means no notes, no cheat sheets, nothing, just you and the assignment. And you mentally treat it like a test. That means you can't take any breaks, you can't use any other resources. Then after 30 minutes, you look, how did I do? Did I grade myself? Whatever. But you don't do anything further than that. Just take a look at it and then stop. Go take your 15-minute breather as always, come back, and then reflect. Did I really understand the material? Look at the first set, look at the rest. Did you really understand what you're doing in that homework? If you find that the 30 minutes you spent on the test, you didn't get anywhere, or you got all the wrong answers, or you went the wrong direction, then you don't know the material. So at that point, you should be asking more questions. You should look for other resources like Khan Academy or YouTube, whatever, depending on what kind of learner you are. Or look at your notes. Either way, you have not really understood what the hell you're doing, and that's going to be a problem. And you need to fix that. You need to make sure you understand it, because the more times you assess yourself, the easier at the end of the unit tests are, because you're ready for it. You've trained yourself. You've tested yourself like crazy, and that's going to be in your best interest in the long run. Very simple way to incorporate testing. So there's my time. Do this for the whole week, and then in the week I just total it up. So let's say I did 5 previews, 3 studies, 5 homeworks, teaching, let's say I did 2, and assessments, let's say I did 3. So in order for this method to be really effective, the majority should always be here. Like right now I have 5 versus 13. That should be a little bit more skewed than that. It shouldn't be 5 and 3. It should have been more like, okay, each time you did homework, you should have also assessed yourself, right? That's what you should have been doing. So if you find yourself doing a lot of T's and A's by the end of the week, what you've done is exactly what you should do. You're going to be set. You're going to be ready for the test. You're going to understand the content better than you ever have before. You're going to be very effective in your class, and you won't be overwhelmed because nothing's going to throw you off. But if you don't do that, you're going to be doing the same thing you've always done. Waiting for the test to study, getting a result that you didn't like, unless you're really good with the subject, in which case maybe your talents are good enough, or the class is easy enough, you could overcome your technique. But imagine if you add the technique to it, you'll be that much more effective. So that's how we do the study system logs. So you're going to track yourself each week, and then at the end, there's an example right there of how you can track yourself for a week. And then if you go on, it's 3 per, so you have 3 weeks worth of sessions for each one of the logs. And this is the paper and pencil version. There's also an online digital version you could do, whatever works for you.